Astronomers have found
This is for educational purposes under the Fair Use Act.
new evidence against the standard model of cosmology. They have discovered a theory that could replace dark matter and ultimately solve one of the biggest mysteries in astronomy. The new theory is called AQUAL and implies that dark matter may not exist at all. The researchers tweaked Newtonian gravity to fit the observations of galaxy rotation curves. Besides correcting a possible 90-year-old mistake, their results may open new windows to the fundamental understanding of gravity itself. But what happened?
I thought we knew exactly what gravity was. I thought relativity was the most tested and verified theory ever.
90 years ago?
What, a 90-year-old mistake? What? What did we just keep our theory despite the evidence for almost a century? Is that how science works?
That changed the course of cosmology? Why are physicists developing an alternative theory of gravity?
Because the theory doesn't work at all and was debunked and actually is inadmissible on its face intellectually because it's a reification fallacy.
Finally, and most importantly, how can the new idea lead us to a better understanding of the universe? Dark matter is one of the most important entities in the standard model of cosmology. It is a hypothetical form of matter believed to make up 27% of the observable universe. The problem is that dark matter does not.
What was that, bro?
Dark matter is one of the most important entities in the standard model of cosmology.
And what he means is that the model doesn't work without it.
It is a hypothetical form of matter believed to.
Wait, it's a hypothetical. Wait, hypothetical form of matter believed. This is a religion. It is quite literally a religion. The belief system built upon the doctrine of men due to devout philosophical bias despite evidence.
To make up 27% of the observable universe.
And it makes up 83% of the total matter in the universe according to their model.
The problem is that dark matter does not interact with electromagnetic radiation, making it difficult to detect directly. Instead, its existence is inferred from its gravitational effects on visible matter.
It can't be detected. Its existence, which is a hypothetical form of matter, is inferred based on its presupposed and reified interaction and cause of gravity. This is so scientific. I'm like drowning in wisdom and knowledge right now. This is profound.
Radiation and the large-scale structure of the universe. Even the standard model of particle physics doesn't contain any elementary particle representing dark matter. Although scientists are pretty confident that dark matter exists, they are still trying to understand its properties and behavior.
Wait, why are they pretty confident that something they can't define, they can't detect, and is merely hypothetical and can't even be understood, has no evidence whatsoever? How can they be all pretty sure? By the way,
Model of particle physics
model is also pseudoscience.
doesn't contain.
Believe it or not, quarks don't exist. Leptons, that's a cool story, bro. The phenomena exist. This is just made up pseudoscience.
Any elementary particle representing dark matter. Although scientists are pretty confident that dark matter exists, they are still trying to understand its properties and behavior.
Even though they're pretty sure it exists, they're still trying to understand what it even is that they believe exists.
Their goal is to develop a definitive theory that explains its nature. To understand AQUAL, it's important to learn how dark matter even came into the picture. It was in 1933 when Swiss astronomer Fritz Zwicky.
By the way, I haven't even watched this video, and mind you, every time I try to explain this to ballers, they a lot of heliocentrists They say that I made this up, so maybe you guys can pay attention to your own paradigm. You can become familiar with your religion before choosing to believe in it.
Zwicky. It was in 1933 when Swiss astronomer Fritz Zwicky noticed something was missing in the universe. He studied galaxy clusters and concluded that the observed mass of matter was not accounting for the total mass of the galaxy cluster found
It's almost like exactly what I said or something.
based on the motion of the galaxies held together by the gravitational force. He discovered this discrepancy in the Coma cluster. Zwicky first calculated the mass of the Coma cluster by studying the galaxies at its edge. He then compared it with the mass based on the brightness and the number of galaxies in the cluster. The two values didn't match. As a result, he obtained evidence for an unseen type of matter, which he called dark matter.
It didn't just not match. Funny how you left out the numbers. It was 99% off. 99% of the mass needed, according to relativity, wasn't there. 99%. Hey, quick question, man. If your theory's off by 99%, is it possible that your theory's wrong? If I have a theory in science, and then the evidence shows that my theory's prediction was off by 99%, shouldn't I throw my theory out? Doesn't that effectively render my theory useless and laughably incompetent and incorrect? How can you say relativity is the most thoroughly tested and verified, some people even say proven, but then they start pumping you with solipsism and saying nothing can be proven, when it was off by 99%? I can't even fathom how stupid that is. I have a prediction in my theory. It's about pennies, and it predicts that when you open this drawer, there's going to be 100 pennies. You open the drawer and you find 1 penny, and you're like, my theory's not wrong. Let me just change this equation real fast. Look, now there's 99 invisible pennies. It's so dumb, bro. This was 100 years ago, 90 years ago.
For an unseen type of matter, which he called dark matter. Supporting his study came American astronomer Vera Rubin's analysis of galaxy rotation curves. A galaxy rotation curve is a graph of the orbital speeds of visible stars or gas in the galaxy versus their radial distance from the center. A rotation curve for our solar system looks like this. The average rotation.
I want to point something out since we have all the heliosexuals in the chat. Just pay attention. Notice what they're not going to do. They're not going to actually acknowledge what we're discussing. Right, so one of the comments here is like, oh, leptons, like, because I said pseudoscience, like particle physics is pseudoscience, and these leptons don't exist. The phenomenon exists, but the interpretation is pseudoscience. And then he says, leptons have to exist because as electronics require it for live streams to even exist. I'm like, yeah, that said the phenomenon is real already. But they can't address this. I can go ahead and tell you their talking point. We don't actually need them. They're NPCs, but it's entertaining. Someone can go watch the live chat and be like, whoa, I don't want to be anything like that ever. So, well, that's how science works. We don't fully understand everything. Just because we don't understand everything doesn't mean that we have to throw everything out. That's how science works. We're constantly learning and updating our understanding. We're always learning new things and figuring stuff out. That's how science works. Just because we don't understand everything. No, it's not that you don't understand everything. Your theory was off by 99%. Not everything. You didn't understand 99% of the galaxy cluster observation. 99%, okay? But they can't acknowledge this. They can't acknowledge the implications, which is clearly that your theory is trash. It cannot be correct. It is wrong objectively. If you believe in it still, you're just a religious zealot. They can't actually acknowledge it. And once I open up the Zoom, they're not going to come on here and defend it. They're going to run away from it. Should be very telling. I think there's a word for it's called cognitive dissonance. It's when you cannot hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously. It causes your brain to basically shut down. You can no longer think logically or coherently because you have two opposing beliefs existing simultaneously. Belief number one: the heliocentric model is legit. The universe model is true. It's scientific. It's proven. I know my solar system's true. I made a model when I was 12. Relativity is so amazing. Gravity is so amazing. Einstein's a genius. He figured it all out. Relativity is the most tested and verified theory ever. Dark matter shows that it's off by an immense amount. 83% of all matter in the universe is something that can't be defined. The prediction of relativity was off by 99%. I can't. We'll just call Austin names. So just pay attention to them in the chat. They won't actually address this other than saying what I just said. Oh, Witsit thinks because he found one thing that we don't understand that it's all a lie. He thinks he's smarter than all other physicists. That's how science works. We don't know everything. That's all you're going to hear. They can't actually address it with substantive specificity. It should be very telling to an intelligent and honest person.
A rotation curve for our solar system lens for an unseen type of matter, which he called dark matter. Supporting his study came American astronomer Vera Rubin's analysis of galaxy rotation curves. A galaxy rotation curve is a graph of the orbital speeds of visible stars or gas in the galaxy versus their radial distance from the center. A rotation curve for our solar system looks like this. The average rotational velocity of planets in their orbits around the Sun decreases as their average distance from the Sun increases.
Welcome to the Misfits, Rusty Russ. Thanks for becoming a member.
So, the farther a planet lies from the Sun, the slower it goes around it. Mathematically, their orbital speeds are inversely proportional to the square root of the radial distance from the Sun. However, Rubin and her colleague Kent Ford found that the stars in the galaxies did not obey such rules. In fact, it's the opposite. Almost all stars in the galaxies revolve around the center at increasing speed as the distance increases. They noticed that the outer regions of these galaxies were rotating at the same or increasing speed as the inner regions, which was unexpected based on the known distribution of visible matter in the galaxies. This seemed only possible if there was a significant amount of unseen matter in the galaxies. Just like
this also goes into the face of Newton's laws. The outside should be going slower, much less the same speed as the inside, much less faster. So again, we run into another problem. I told you guys this also. I don't know what year they said if I was correct when I said 55. I know it's right around there. Same thing. They looked at the galaxy rotational speeds and like, look, we have another problem. Our theory's wrong again.
Wiki, they referred to it as dark matter. With time, more evidence in favor of dark matter poured in. First, in the 1980s, the observation of gravitational lensing of...
I'm going to use them to teach how incredibly stupid the belief is. This has been known for decades. None of it means Earth flat. Now, we made it very clear that this show is actually about, is the Earth in the center or is it not? Right. That's why it's called Relatively Speaking in School and Globers this Wednesday. We also made it very clear that they wouldn't actually address it with substantive specificity, be intellectually honest and acknowledge the problem. They'll just try to gaslight as if somehow I'm stupid because I'm capable of cognitively thinking properly and addressing the fact that this clearly doesn't work. The fact that you still blindly believe it makes me stupid. So what does that have to do with flat Earth? Nothing. That's not what the show's about, nor is that what this subject is about that we're covering. So none of the trolls or, the heliocentrists will actually respond. It should be, I just want the people at home watching this to really take this in. If you're like on the fence, you're just now researching this. I know we have a lot of new people coming to the stream. Just really think about this. The people that are devoted to following my channel around and obsessed with this, right? They can't even acknowledge it. It's like, hey, here's a video of your wife. She's cheating on you. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. My wife wouldn't cheat on me. There's no way. You're stupid. Ha 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 ha. You're so stupid. I pay my wife's bills. She wouldn't cheat on me. You're so stupid. We've known that her location was saying she was somewhere she hasn't been for years. It's been known for decades. Doesn't mean she's cheating on me. Well, it does though, bro. Like, here, just check out the video. You're stupid. It's like weird. It's like textbook cognitive dissonance. You can't even look at it. Like, think about what's going on in your mind right now. Okay. So, anyway, just pointing out again, they can't actually address it. It's just like, this has been known for decades. That's my point. That's literally my point. This has been known for decades, and it debunks the model, and it's been ignored for almost a century. This has been known for decades. Exactly. Thank you. That's the whole point. Like, it's really wild to observe it, but I think it's good for other people to see. Like, bro, this heliocentric spell renders you so retarded, you should really step back and think about what's going on.
Background objects by galaxy clusters supported the presence of dark matter. Then, in the 1990s, measurements of the cosmic microwave background and the large-scale structure formation of the universe hinted that something like dark matter must exist in the universe. Specifically, these observations showed that the universe is much more clumpy and filamentous than one would expect if it were composed of visible matter alone. Although the concept of dark matter is strongly established in modern cosmology, there's a big problem. Scientists are not sure what comprises dark matter. As stated earlier, there's no elementary particle in the standard model that makes up dark matter.
Dude, I just gotta say, like, imagine saying it's been known for a long time, this is well known, is a rebuttal. That's the whole point, dude. I gotta say, the heliocentric model is a religion. There is nothing that can falsify it because it's your religion. So even though your prediction was off by 99% almost a century ago, you cling on to it. Can't even explain it to this day, a century later. Your theory is grossly wrong, and you have to hold on to the belief because you have to believe that the earth is insignificant so you can be a moral degenerate. And that's weird. And just think about this. I'm like, yo, your theory didn't work like a century ago, bro. It doesn't work. It's off by 99%. We've known about this for a long time. That's my whole point. This is all. Everyone knows this. This has been known forever. That's literally my point, though. Like, that's crazy that you don't get it.
The hunt for such particles is still going on. Several candidates for dark matter have been proposed, including weakly interacting massive particles, massive compact halo objects, exions, and sterile neutrinos. Scientists continue to search for dark matter particles at the Large Hadron Collider. Through experiments such as CREST, LUX, Zeppelin, the Exion Dark Matter Experiment, the Xenon Dark Matter Experiment, and the dark matter maps from the Dark Energy Survey. But so far, all these experiments have returned empty-handed. So naturally, one would think, what if there is no dark matter at all? What if this is a flaw in our understanding of gravity itself? Many teams of researchers are on a quest to find alternatives to dark matter. One such alternative is called the Modified Newtonian Dynamics, or MOND. It involves the modification of Newtonian gravity to apply to the galaxy rotation curves. Since Newton's laws are highly tested and valid for high acceleration systems like the solar system, MOND, proposed by Mordechai Milgram in 1983, took a step towards a modified gravitational force law for an extremely low acceleration environment. This theory assumes a threshold acceleration below which there is a transition from Newtonian dynamics.
Give me a second. I'm going to just play this video for a second. I got to step away for a sec.
Greatest scientist to have ever lived, has been described as the supreme genius and most enigmatic character in the history of science. He's known for his three greatest contributions: the nature of white light, calculus, and perhaps the most important of all, the theory of universal gravitation. For years, this theory has been widely accepted as a pure fact, forming the base for many studies and other related theories on the same. But now, physicists claim that it's time to ditch Newton's theory in favor of a new theory of gravity. Welcome to Factnominal, and in today's video, we take a close look at the theory that some physicists believe should replace our current theory of gravity, and why. Legend has it that in 1665, Sir Isaac Newton, an English physicist and mathematician, observed an apple fall from a tree, prompting him to ask what is probably one of the most important questions ever asked. Why did the apple fall towards the ground? Why not sideways or even upwards? While he stayed at the family farm between the years 1665 and 1666, when the bubonic plague struck England, the chance observation in the family apple orchard led him to discover that gravity is a universal force. Not only did it apply to things like apples falling to the ground, but he also applied the same theory to understand the planetary system, the moon, the sun, and beyond. He compared the straight path of the apple falling towards the ground to the curved path of a fired cannonball. He wondered what would happen if the cannonball were to go faster and faster, coming to the conclusion that it would eventually fall around the curve of the Earth forever and never really hit the ground. It is this falling forever motion that describes the movement of the moon around the Earth and the Earth around the sun. Thus was born the theory of gravity. Though there had been others who had thought about it way before him, Sir Isaac Newton was the first person to ever create and publish a comprehensive theory of gravity that applied to all objects, large and small. Being an excellent mathematician, he applied mathematical equations to support the same that were way ahead of their time. Gravitation is the force of attraction that pulls any two bodies towards each other. All objects in the universe attract each other with a certain amount of force, some with far greater force and some with a force that's either too weak or negligible. According to Newton's law of gravitation, every object in the universe attracts every other object, such that the force exerted will be proportional to the product of the masses and inverse of proportional to the square of the distance between the two. His thorough calculations and studies showed that gravitational force is a central, universal, mutual, and mass-dependent force that's independent of the medium and the surrounding environment. Up until then, no other study on gravity or explanation of planetary systems and orbits had ever been given. So, even though there would be criticism and newer, better calculations of the same theory in the years to come, from the likes of Albert Einstein, for example, until that happened, Newton's theory of gravitation was taken as gospel. As groundbreaking and revolutionary as Newton's theory of gravitation was, of course, it was far from perfect. There were some inherent problems with his calculations which did leave some room for doubts. With the help of Newton's laws of physics, we can easily model the motions of the planets in the solar system quite accurately. However, during the 1970s is when scientists happened to hit a roadblock. They discovered that these laws didn't quite work when it came to disk galaxies. What was happening here is that the stars at their outer edges were moving much faster than what was predicted by Newton's theory, since they were so far from the gravitational force of all the matter at their center. When it comes to the planet Mercury, it was observed that Newton's laws couldn't quite predict its motion accurately. Mercury has something called a precession, meaning its orbit around the sun varies slightly every time that it goes around the sun. The shift in its orbit is much more severe than what had been predicted by Newton's laws. No one was quite able to explain why. In 1859, French mathematician Urbain Le Verrier offered what could be a possible solution. He suggested that it's quite possible astronomers may have missed out on something, which wasn't too far-fetched of an idea. After all, it was Leverrier who himself noticed the oddities in the orbit of Uranus, and through closer study of the variations, actually deduced the existence of Neptune. So perhaps he was on to something yet again. He suggested that the odd motion of Mercury could be attributed to something called dark matter. He claimed...
Okay, sorry, I had to help with Aaliyah for a sec. Okay, I know that was painful because I was listening to that. Well, let's come back over here.
To Mond regimes. Based on this idea, a generalized theory was constructed by Milgram and Jacob Bekenstein in 1984. It's called AQUAL, which stands for A quadratic Lagrangian. This theory modified Newtonian gravity by changing the classical Lagrangian to a Lagrangian involving a general function and the threshold acceleration term.
Okay, so believe it or not, if they're having to go back to a Newtonian framework and update it with a modified Newtonian dynamic art theory, I don't think relativity is the most thoroughly tested and verified and proven theory ever, is it? No, it's not. And by the way, the modified Newtonian dynamic theories don't work either. They don't work either. They don't work for many reasons in many areas. It doesn't work. You just shift the goalpost over and over. You can't even get your model to work theoretically, not even sort of, kind of. So all the people that say, oh, where's your math? Where's your math? You can't even show the math. Your model has had centuries of people trying to explain it purely with math, and it still can't get the math to work. In fact, a geocentric model works perfect. It doesn't have the dark matter or dark energy problem. I'm going to drop the zoom in here. I'm going to pin it. Please come on here and enlighten me how the geocentric model, any of them, is not significantly more viable than a heliocentric model if it doesn't have the dark matter, dark energy problem that you still to this day can't explain at all. It's so hilariously stupid.
that it was due to a mystery planet called Vulcan that was throwing
Science.
off the precession of Mercury, and because of its extreme proximity to the Sun, we weren't able to actually see it in the sky. The problem is, though, astronomers were never able to find this so-called planet. Leverrier, too, was unable to explain Mercury's strange orbit. But
And by the way, we'll cover this on another stream in the future, but the narrative is that, and dude, you talk to PhD astronomers, they'll say this until you correct them, and then they'll just breeze past it. Like, just so you guys know, if you're having a debate or discussing a conversation or subject, and you make a claim and it's proven to not be true, you don't just pretend it didn't happen and change the subject to something else. You don't shift the burden over to something else. You don't make up a straw man, divert to it with via a red herring, and pretend that somehow you still win the debate. And this is what everyone that defends the heliocentric model has to do. Oh, parallax proves the Earth is going around the sun. No, it's not. Here's why it doesn't. But how do you not fall off of your stupid disc? It's like every single time. So someone will claim relativity predicted Mercury's perihelion shift. That's how we know it's correct. It didn't predict anything. Mercury's anomalous perihelion shift or precession was actually observed for decades before relativity was postulated. Einstein knew he had to try to integrate an explanation for it mathematically because it was observed 4 decades before that. Einstein's theory of relativity predicted Mercury's perihelion shift. It did not predict it, though, because it came 4 decades after. And it didn't even work. To this day, it doesn't fully explain it. Even mathematically, he had to add imaginary numbers, use the Schwarzschild equation, which is not how you pronounce it. And it still doesn't work. It's called Mercury's anomaly. They've come up with the Kerr metric and then a variation of that to try to explain it with all kinds of ideas. Oh, it must be that the sun, if you change the charge of the sun, the size of the sun, and make it more of a black body and blah, 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 doesn't work, doesn't match the model, doesn't match the data, doesn't match any of the other parameters that you have to have for your model. To this day, your model can't explain Mercury. To this day. That's a fact. So Einstein didn't predict anything when it comes to Mercury. and it still can't explain it. And I will bury that in a stream coming soon. But you will hear from everyone, because in pop sci articles to the mainstream layman, just like they tell people mass attracts mass, they tell people that Einstein's theory of relativity predicted Mercury's perihelion shift. It predicted Mercury's anomalous movement. That's how we know relativity is true. They'll also tell you that in 1919, the Arthur Eddington experiment working with Einstein proved relativity was true because it predicted a star being seen around the sun during an eclipse. But in reality, if you look at it, there were 35 plates that were used to try to measure this. Only 2 of them, of the 35, even got remotely close to matching relativity. Those 2 still didn't match relativity. They had to fudge the numbers, and admittedly, it's not even precise enough to measure what they were trying to measure. 2 of the 35 were even remotely close to matching it, and they will tell you that relativity was verified with the Eddington experiment in 1919. Relativity was verified because of Mercury's perihelion shift was predicted by relativity. These are 2 grossly misrepresented lies. Why? Why do you have to lie so much? Because you're defending a lie.
Soon enough, that mystery was solved with Einstein's theory of general relativity.
Look, never even seen the video, and I knew what it was about to do. And it wasn't solved to this day. It's called the Mercury anomaly. It's still not explained. It's so funny, bro.
He showed that mass warps space. This warping wouldn't exactly...
He didn't show anything. Wait, here's something that ballers don't ever think about or know anything about. So you know how they always give you this depiction right here? They'll show you fabric, and they'll put a ball in the middle, and they'll drop another ball, and it'll move around, right? What you guys don't seem to get is, where's the downward vector coming from to make it be down? Why is it moving down in the gravity well to go in a circle? Where's the vector at that makes it go down? Because if you just have a bunch of space-time, you have to have a vector. Where's the vector? What, you guys just always give this little cartoon to people as if there's... Why is it down? Why isn't it omnidirectional? Well, if there's equal and opposite direction with omnidirectional bending and warping, then it would equal out and straighten out. There's equal and opposite reaction with the curvature, it will straighten out. By the way, Witt thinks he's smarter than all physicists, and this is such a... You'll never get an answer. Go ask any of the smartest physicists in the world that think they know all about relativity. Ask them, if there's an equal and opposite reaction of the bending and warping of space-time, why doesn't it straighten out? How come whenever it's depicted with any type of demonstration or explanation, it always just assumes a downward vector when it should be omnidirectional? If this is going down relative to the sun, where's the downward vector coming from? Why is it going down? Why is it ducking down, dipping down? It's so stupid.
Affect those planets that are far away from the sun, but for Mercury, being in such proximity, would experience its strange precession. One simple way to visualize what's happening with Mercury's orbit is to think of it as rolling a penny along a surface that suddenly curves. As the penny goes around that curve, it changes its speed and course. But if you're unable to see the curve, it would seem as if the penny took an inexplicable turn on its own. Thus,
but why is it curving in? Why is that depicting it being down, though? Why is it curving with this relative to this being down? Because it's omnidirectional. If something's bending, it's going up and down. In fact, it says it goes up and down, which would be effectively vibration. And so if there is a fabric in the background that's vibrational, you're basically just saying ether, but claiming that it's not an ether, that it's not substantive, that it doesn't have substance-like qualities, and that it's just concepts. It's hilarious. Whenever people say this is the most verified and proven theory ever, it's hilarious because it's actually so incredibly stupid and fallacious, it doesn't even get to first base, bro.
An inexplicable turn on its own. Thus, Einstein put a rest to the mystery of Mercury's orbit, boiling it down to simply being an error in Newton's calculations that didn't make room for such an exception. But
and relativistic math still doesn't work, and he had to put imaginary numbers in the denominators of like equation 7 and 8. I had to use a Schwarzschild equation, which assumes a massless path, and it still doesn't work. It's called Mercury's anomaly. That's where they come up with a Kerr metric and then the variation of that. They say there might be another planet out there in our solar system somewhere, or maybe the sun is, let's just pretend the sun's a big, gigantic black body with a lot more charge than our model says it is. and none of it works.
Does this mean that dark matter doesn't exist at all? Turns out, what we've theorized is the halo of dark matter that surrounds the galaxy, much like the planet Vulcan, could simply be a figment of our imagination. It also raises the question, could it also be that Einstein's general relativity has a flaw? This school of thought has actually been present among many scientists and physicists for years.
Dude said it's towards, not down. A pit can only go so far. No, you mean your physical demonstrations can also only go so far. So if it's actually going towards it, that means it's because there is a gravity well. So where is the vector coming from? Dude, this is what I'm saying. This is far outside of the scripts that these people have been fed to repeat at a really remedial level. So they just like, due to cognitive dissonance, they have to assume I'm stupid. I'm stupid. Because they've never thought of this. They can't think for themselves. They never had like a 5-year-old answer crafted for them. Massatwax mass. Just repeat that. Massatwax mass. Just keep saying Massatwax mass, okay? Well, we stick to the ball. There's a force that pushes down Massatwax mass, okay? Like they don't have an answer for this because they don't even know how to think. But it's okay. I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm saying your belief system is rendering your argument stupid, okay? You need to step back and try to use your brain for a second. Now, if there's a gravity well and things are basically falling in a geodesic path around other planets or bodies, okay, then there has to be a vector. If you don't have a vector, then it's just flat. So the fabric of space-time is just flat, then it's not bending and warping, and it's not bending towards the mass. You don't understand your own belief system. It's bending down relative to the mass, or in some vector, so that you get a gravity well. It does, the space-time is flat, it doesn't bend towards the object, thus making it go around it. There has to be a vector to bend it, or to warp it, or to give it direction. This is a fact. And I know the answer for your model, because it's common sense what your answer would have to be, but you guys don't, because you say stuff like, it's not down, it's towards, there is no vector, it's just toward. Towards what? What does that mean, towards? Where's the vector coming from? What's the initial primary vector? It's hilarious. I'm giving you guys questions that will shut up any physicist, pretty much. Don't believe me, just get some people with credentials to come on in the field, and we'll see how it goes. I'm about to drop the Zoom link in just a second. Let's finish this up.
Now, a growing number of physicists are convinced that it's time to do away with the older theories of gravity and replace them with a newer, more modified one.
But wait, why? Because all the people on the internet claim that we're stupid for saying that it doesn't work and it's the most verified theory ever. Why are all the physicists convinced that we have to replace it and do away with it? That's weird. Someone's lying.
Newton's laws of physics and theory of gravitation have some minor inaccuracies that don't...
It's not a minor inaccuracy if 83% of the matter in the entire universe is unaccounted for with your current gravity model. So when you look at the galaxy cluster, it's off by 99% the mass prediction. That's not a minor discrepancy when 97% of the entire universe is not accounted for, nor defined, nor predicted with your theory, nor works with your theory, but rather directly contradicts it, as it claims there's nothing more than space and time, yet somehow you need 83% of the matter to be something else that's not identified or predicted in any way. I don't think a 99% discrepancy is a minor problem. Oh, it's minor. That's why it was off by 99% of his prediction.
Quite explain everything, but even the slightest bit of inaccuracy or error is a major cause for concern. It brings to question
a minor problem, the slightest bit of inaccuracy. It was off by 99% though.
Whether the theory is as applicable across the board as was once thought. Physicists have now been arguing for an alternative explanation of gravity, one which requires no dark matter for its explanation and seems to be a considerably better theory. It's able to account for evidence at a wide variety of scales as compared to the ones that have preceded it so far. In 1983, Israeli physicist Mordechai Milgram initiated a new research program in cosmology called Modified Newtonian Dynamics, or Milgramian Dynamics, or simply put, MOND. In a series of 3 papers, Milgram proposed a set of postulates describing how Newton's laws of gravity and motion should be changed in regimes of very low acceleration. The postulates were designed to explain the asymptotic flatness of galaxy rotation curves without ever needing to prove the existence of dark matter for the same. He was successfully able to show that a number of other predictions follow from his 3 postulates, and he proposed these predictions as tests of the theory. So, what is MOND all about? MOND's main hypothesis states that gravity begins to behave differently from Newtonian physics when it becomes extremely weak as it occurs at the edges of galaxies.
And it doesn't actually even work for the spirals or the galaxy rotations or the clusters. It actually doesn't work, and I have a paper showing that. So anyway, this is just to demonstrate, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and grab the Zoom link. Let me kind of explain this. So when people pretend that they're like, mass attracts mass, bro, you are over a century years out of the loop, okay? You can't say mass attracting mass. It doesn't work, okay? And by the way, that's not even a definition. What does that mean? What's the physical mechanism? Mass attracts mass. What does that mean? Like, just like this matter intrinsically is attracting this matter? What does that mean? That's not a physical mechanism. What's the physical mechanism? It was never even proposed by Newton, okay? But this is long gone by now. This has nothing to do with the current model. So then you have Einstein, and like we've just discussed, it was incredibly wrong, laughably stupid and wrong. Okay, it's retarded. This was 90 years ago. Again, if you have a theory and your theory makes a prediction, you go look at the observation and your theory is off by 99%. Your theory's not just wrong, it was like grossly incorrect and laughably not viable. Okay. I don't know why I have to keep repeating that. Like, it's like people can't hear it or something. It's like just bouncing off of their head or something. Like, it's weird. But that's why they're proposing things like modified Newtonian dynamics. Not mass attracts mass from 1600. Modified Newtonian dynamics after relativity didn't work either. And by the way, the modified Newtonian dynamics also doesn't work. So like, oh, we just want to pick and choose Newtonian and then just make up a new type based on observations, but we can't explain it, can't give you physical demonstrations or experiments, still can't define any of it, can't even explain what gravity itself is. We're just going to say, well, since we've seen all these discrepancies for a century now, we can change the model, add to Newtonian dynamics a whole new subsection that says, oh, well, in certain scenarios it acts differently. How so? Well, because here's the mathematical difference from what we initially predicted. Now let's fit that in there. And now it works or something. Like, you didn't explain anything. You have no experiments, no tests, anything. And it still doesn't even work mathematically. Modified Newtonian dynamics does not work mathematically either. That's weird, huh? So, like, let's pull the veil back here, okay? You guys, when you say you don't even have a model, first of all, the geocentric model is significantly more viable. It doesn't. Let's watch a couple more minutes while we hope someone jumps in here.
The currently accepted cosmology model is the lambda cold dark matter model, or the LCDM model. Let's understand how it's different from the AQUAL hypothesis. There are 2 important parts of every galaxy's rotation curve. The inner one, which is a rising curve, and the outer one, which is slightly increasing or almost saturated. These parts correspond to the motion of stars in the inner and outer regions of the galaxies. Since the LCDM model attributes the galaxy rotation curves to the presence of dark matter, the distribution of matter should account for both the inner and outer portions of the rotation curve. On the other hand, AQUAL asserts that the transition caused by the galaxy dynamics accounts for the difference between the inner and outer portion of the rotation curve. The small kink in the curve is due to the slight change in the velocity distribution between the inner and outer stellar motions. That's how the LCDM and AQUAL models differ. Now this is where the new study by K.H. Che comes in. It chiefly focuses on how differently modified gravity and dark matter explain the inner and outer proportions of the rotation curves.
But you again just invoke dark matter? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
He studied 152 galaxies observed in the Spitzer photometry and accurate rotation curves, or the SPARC database. He aimed to determine the theoretical possibilities of distinguishing dark matter and modified gravity.
Guys, go look at my last modern day debate, and you're going to see dozens and dozens of people talking about how stupid I am, how easy it is to debate me, how